All right, we back. Another fire episode, no pump fakes on the way. All right, I think it's only right we get started off first talking about this Warriors Grizzlies series. Of course, Warriors got the 1-0 lead. You still is there any chance that you feel the Grizzlies could take this series as a whole? I know they're down 1-0, they lost home court advantage. But do you think they can still pull it off and defeat the Warriors?
No, I think they blew their chance in game one.
Off one game, you're saying that? They lost by one and off a layup.
Yeah, I think they blew it. When you have Jerry Jackson going for 30 and you got Ja Morant going for 30 and you still lose, and Draymond Green didn't play the entire second half, kind of blew a game. So it's just like Draymond Green comes back game two. They already got one. They may get a little hungrier, get two. So who knows? But I really don't see I think it's a better matchup, the Grizzlies against the Warriors instead of the Grizzlies against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think they match up a little better with the Warriors than they did the Minnesota Timberwolves. But at the same time, 6, maybe. You know, I respect for the Grizzlies being a 2 seed and they're young guys. I'll give them 6, but really I want to say 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, with that explanation, obviously, with John, you're gonna have great games, and then Draymond getting ejected, not playing the second half, and still Warriors winning. If Draymond comes back, obviously, for game 2, and they pick up 2 games on the road, and now they're going back to the crib, up 2-0. Hey,
yeah.
But again, I mean, it could also be vice versa, right? The Grizzlies come out and dominate game 2. I don't think that'll happen, dominate, but they could come out and win game 2, and then series tie 1-1. They sneak out and get one out in Cali. I mean, I'm just glad though that the first game was a good game, right? Like I'm glad the first game came down to the wire. It's a good, I think, preview for what the entire series is actually going to be. But I feel like John might have learned a valuable lesson in that even one play could dictate an entire series. Right now, obviously, again, there's still time left in this series for them, the Grizzlies, to win. But even one play, one game can, push an entire series and even season when you zoom out in a certain way. So, we'll see, man. They're still a young team.
I just feel like you said exactly. That's the key. They're a young team. I just feel like they're too young. I just feel like Ja still needs to develop. The last play of the game, everybody knew what was going to happen. They're going to give the ball to Ja. He's going to try to attack the rim. He needs to work on his in-between game. That's going to probably, take him and the Memphis Grizzlies up a notch when he gets that. But it's just kind of like they can be too predictable at times. I mean, also, the credit to the Golden State Warriors because, what the Memphis Grizzlies got to understand, the runs they go on, the celebration they do during the game and stuff like that, that may phase other teams, the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's not going to phase the Warriors. The Warriors are champions. You're going to have to go out and actually beat them. Going on a 15-2 run, most teams will probably quit. Warriors, they can get that back in 2 minutes. That's what I'm saying. They're a dynasty. They've been there before. These guys are proven championship aspirations and driven what they're trying to reach this year. So it's just kind of they're not fazed by a lot of stuff that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to do. So that's another reason why I just feel like the Golden State Warriors are going to end up probably beating the Memphis Grizzlies. I give them 6, but I really want to say 5, but we'll see though. Hopefully it's just a good series where every game is close, but I don't know. I really don't.
And also too, I want to give you your flowers in that you mentioned earlier, you were probably one of, if not the first person I really hear mention that Jordan Poole had to be the second best player on the Warriors in order for them to really take that next push in terms of either making it to the finals or win the entire thing. Obviously, people have fallen in love with, the Splash Brothers and the intensity that Draymond has brought to the table. But, of course, Jordan Poole is like that. I think, of course, the question mark was, if he can get it done during the postseason, which, again, everybody knows now there is a difference between those two. But he's special. I think he's continuing to show that to the world now and doing that on the biggest stage, right? I think to do that in the regular season is one thing, right? But once April comes around, can you do that? And then now we're entering May. Can you do that? And, he's definitely shown that. So, yeah, you were one of the very first, if not, like I said, the first people to say that. But so, I mean, the firepower that the Warriors have, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's something, man. It really is. And, but even again, though, they only won by 1, right? I know Draymond, again, didn't play the second half, but they it's gonna be a series. I won't get crazy and say brooms, but I'm gonna wait till game 2. If Warriors win game 2, we might need to bring the ropes out.
Yeah,
the Warriors win game 2, it might not be heading back to Memphis.
It's crazy though, because the Memphis Grizzlies may feel a little comfortable, to give Memphis a little credit. Like, they may feel comfortable knowing that, Jordan Poole started the second half. He kind of changed the whole dynamic of that game. He's probably not going to start game 2. They're probably going to go back to their original lineup. And during that first half, the Memphis Grizzlies had a little more advantage playing against the Warriors because, they had to split those minutes. Like, Jordan Poole got a lot of minutes in the second half, which allowed him to, like, get his rhythm, get his flow. Like, he came in, I think, like 4 minutes, he had like 11 points or something like that with the quickness. So it's just kind of, once that stuff happened with Draymond. So that's another thing. Like, who knows what type of lineups the Golden State Warriors are going to put out there. And I always feel like with Jordan Poole in the lineup, it makes him more dangerous, but we don't know, necessarily if he's going to start this next game or if the Warriors are going to go back to Draymond Green starting and Jordan Poole come out the bench and Gary Payton II starting as well. So that may favor the Memphis Grizzlies.
But of course, that's a good problem to have, right? You got to choose between Draymond and then Jordan Poole, right? Like that's a great issue to have, I guess, for the Warriors.
It should, but
but I'm saying though, like some people, some teams, it's like, damn, I gotta go with one of y'all. But in the Warriors case is like, all right, cool, I gotta go with one of y'all. But you got two guys who play and win in basketball. But it's interesting. It's a very unique situation, I'll say. And then obviously not Draymond getting ejected, but to know that he wasn't able to play the entire second half, and then they still
won.
Come out and win. It's almost as though, like, if a team does everything right, you would hope that's the one game that you might be able to steal. And it's weird to say that a home court team would steal a game in game 1, but that could have been the case. Clay obviously hitting a crazy or a very important late 3. But it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be a battle. I will say that.
We'll see, man. I mean, like I said, I hope it's a series, and I hope it's not a humbling series for the Memphis. I hope it's like a really good series, like competitive. But it could be a humbling series coming because, like I said, if you lose, and Draymond didn't play, like that's a game you really supposed to win. So that's kind of like a game that's like they lose one of their best players. Like, you're not really supposed to lose that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they lost. And like I said, during the closing moments in the final, the clutch time, the Memphis Grizzlies get very predictable with Ja Morant. Like, I love Ja. He attacks the basket, fiercely, plays above the rim, handle. But sometimes that can be very, very predictable if everybody in the world knows what you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, but to your point, though, they are young. I feel like they are. I feel like it's a balance of them being young and them trying to figure out versus like they're here now. Because, if he misses that, if he makes that layup, or they win that game by 1, we're having a completely different conversation. Like, literally, it's vice versa. Even though, like we said, Draymond didn't play, I think them having the 1-0 lead, them possibly taking a commanding 2-0 lead, heading back to Cali with confidence, right? You get, 30 ball from Jaren. Like, it does change. It's crazy, too, how just literally winning can, like, change an entire conversation. But, hey, you're right. But there's another series on the East Coast that happened for game 1. Celtics and Bucks. Bucks up 1-0. Celtics,
Told y'all.
Taking their first loss.
Told you it ain't sweet on the Bucks side. I've been trying to warn people.
But that's the crazy. Giannis didn't even have like the greatest game.
It ain't sweet. Yeah.
And then they still won on the road, game 1, mind you. Yeah. Shout out to Drew Holiday. And I mean, again, I don't think this series is going to be a sweep for the Bucks, but I mean, this is a series where they were able to steal home court game 1. And then again, mind you, with not the greatest of games from Giannis. And I know Jalen and Jason could have played a little better, but still, one of those 3 is a former MVP. Khris Middleton not playing, yeah.
They're missing Khris Middleton. That's what I'm saying. They're missing Khris Middleton, which helps them on the offensive side. But what I was trying to tell people about we had several podcasts talking about this, like the difference between KD and Giannis. You can't really stop Giannis. It's nothing that you can contain KD, but you can't really contain Giannis. And the reason why we saw in game one, Giannis can go out and have a bad scoring night, but his impact on the game for his passing and his rim protecting, like, it's levels. So that's why everybody loves those dual forwards, do everything type of forwards, similar to like LeBron James, Luka Doncic, another example, like guys that can just do everything. And that's what Giannis is. He's a guy that can do everything, and it makes it very hard for a team like the Boston Celtics because, like, damn, if you take his scoring away, you still got his passing, you still got his defense. Like, it's tough. It's tough for Boston.
Yeah, and having to meet Brooke, Giannis, and defensively, obviously, this is a very different team than the Nets. I know, obviously, people fell in love with the scoring duo of KD and Kyrie, but defensively for the Bucks, it's like, they're not just putting the ball in the hoop. Like this is a two-way defensive team, and so, I mean, hey, man,
they got real NBA length.
Facts.
Real NBA size. Like it's serious. It's not. Yeah. They not meeting guards at the rim. They're not meeting Bruce Brown at the rim.
Fact. Yeah. It,
you know what I'm saying? They got
legitimate.
They got real. Yeah. They got real NBA size. Like they big boys. Like it's a problem.
And it's different teams. But I tell you what, if they go out and sweep the Celtics, hypothetically speaking, of course, they go out and sweep the Celtics. I think they'll have, especially without Khris. Especially without Khris. That's gonna be tough, man. That's gonna be tough, man.
What did I tell you? I told you I feel like it's only one team. I was like two teams because I was like the Toronto Raptors with their length and their size. They can make Giannis have a difficult time, or some Miami Heat. Other than that, I told you, like, it's like, or I was hoping like Kevin Durant, best player in the world, possibly can get hot and go on a run like he did last year. That clearly didn't happen. They lost to the Celtics in the first round, but it's just like, it's only like two teams that have like the personnel that really can make things not difficult, but like make Giannis a little like not himself probably for a full series. But at the end of the day, like you said, Giannis played bad shooting wise, but he was phenomenal. He was the best player on the floor impact wise the entire night. So that just goes to show me that, like, it ain't sweet in Boston. Like, it's the Bucks go out and win this series. Like I said, if Giannis don't get stopped in the Eastern Conference, and by that team, I feel like it has to be the Miami Heat because I picked the Milwaukee Bucks to beat the Boston Celtics because of everything that we saw in Game 1. The only team I feel like can beat the Milwaukee Bucks and stop Giannis from getting back-to-back in general is the Miami Heat. Everybody else, and if they may lose to Philly, and we're going to talk about that series, but everybody else, I feel like it's nothing. It's over with. Like, we could be talking about at the beginning of June. Once again, Giannis probably a top 10 player in the world if he goes out and pulls off what I think he's going to do.
Yeah. I'll be with that. I think we could save that conversation for if and when that happens, just because of the moment, who will have to face, what he does in those finals, so on and so forth. But I will say this to the Miami point. Miami definitely
top 10 player all time. I think that's
I know what you mean. Yeah,
top 10 player all time.
Top 10 player of all time. Yeah, that's heavy. That's what I'm saying.
That resume would be crazy.
Multiple MVP. Hey, it might get nasty for a lot of people. Will be very, very upset. But like I said before, I've learned my lesson in terms of just overall getting too hype on the moment. I'm gonna wait till he goes out and gets the job done. Gets the job done because we've seen a lot of. Anyway. But yeah, speaking of the Miami team, right? Miami, Philly with Embiid being out first 2 games at a minimum. That's definitely gonna be a challenge. But again, I think the pressure is gonna be on James Harden, obviously. Which James Harden are we gonna see? The Houston James Harden, or the as you call him, the Steve Nash James Harden. Hopefully, we get the Houston one. But I think it all depends on, obviously, like if Embiid isn't there, I want to see the Houston one, right? But I get why he would be a facilitating type of player with Joel Embiid. So it's because it's like, you still got an MVP candidate on your team. You want to let him, get active, but at the same time, trying to win a championship. But Embiid being out those first 2 games, I mean, I had no choice but to go with Miami.
I was going with Miami. I feel like Miami is going to the finals. That's That's my pick to go to the finals. But there's no excuse for James Harden not to make this a series. That means, like, if Joel Embiid is ready for game 3, it should be at least 1-1. If he's ready for game 4, it should be at least 2-1 Miami, and the Sixers win the game. Basically, what I'm trying to say is no reason that Joel Embiid should come back and this series should be over with. James Harden, figure it out. Like, we can't hold Giannis to this high standard of talking about, Giannis should get to the finals even without Khris Middleton, then come and say, James Harden, Joel Embiid is out. Like, we know what James Harden is about.
That may not be the same, in my opinion.
I think it's the same. I think it's the same because you can't sit up and say the same thing about Giannis, even though Giannis is arguably, some people are going to say, the best in the world. James Harden for years has been a top 5 player in this game. James Harden for years has gone out and dominated in scoring. So it's not out of the question for me to ask him to go out and have a 30 and 10 point game, have a 35 and 12 point assist game, and will your team to victory. Like, it shouldn't be out of the question. Like, I don't like, and you know me, James Harden's one of my favorite players. I've supported James Harden throughout the years, skill set, talent. You know what it is on this side. But we got to keep that same energy consistent. We cannot go out and say that James Harden, because Joel Embiid is out, that, the series is over it. No, he has to make this a series. And I think he's capable of making this a series because if Jalen Brunson can go out and do it, and Luka Doncic was out in the first round, if he can go out and he went out and dropped 40, James Harden should be able to go out and make this a series and get a game. It's that simple, this. That's how I'm looking at it. It's really that simple.
Let's talk about something real quick. First of all, the Miami Heat are not the Utah Jazz. That's fine. That's first. And also, we have to consider who it is that James Harden is no longer playing with, right? It's not a Ben Simmons injury. It's not a Khris Middleton injury. It's a Joel Embiid injury. It's there's a top 3, arguably top 1 MVP candidate injury. So that's one thing, right? But then I think it's also a matter of, to the third point is like, I may not hold him to the same standard or level to those other guys just because I don't feel he's in the conversation of best player in the world. Now, I agree. I don't like lowering the bar either. All right? Excuses are cool. Get the shit done. But at the same time, because I don't view you as like a KD, a Giannis, a Bron, or Steph Curry, whatever, it's like, okay, if you get it done, it's lit. But if not, I'm not gonna be like, all right. I'm not letting. Well, yeah, like you said, if you feel that way about him, then cool.
No, but it's not even me feeling that he's a top 5 player in the game because he's not a top 5 player in the game anymore at this point. Regardless of the injuries or whatever he's dealing with, he's not a top 5 player in the game. So I don't view James Harden as what I viewed him the past 4 years. I was talking about top 3. He's not that anymore. Clearly, I said he's in the Steve Nash role for a reason. But at the end of the day, like, what is his best attribute always been? It's always been his scoring. So me asking James Harden to go out and do what he does best and make it a series shouldn't be that hard of a thing. I'm not saying go out and be a defender. I'm not saying go out and rebound. I'm talking about go out and do the best thing that you've been doing your entire career. That's scoring the basketball. So I have to sit up and look at this as a way of like, I know Joel Embiid is out, the best player on the Philadelphia Sixers. But you know what? James Harden's a top 10 talent, offensive talent of all time. What does he do best? He scores the ball. Go out and at least make it a series. That's all I'm saying. Can you give me one game? Can you give me one game? That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking is one game. One game. I'm not asking for the win. Can you make this a series until Joel Embiid returns? That shouldn't be. And if I'm the Philadelphia Sixers and we talk about giving him a 5-year, $265 million contract, and you can't come out and get one game and make this a series, we're not even talking about winning a series. We just talking about making a series when Joel Embiid comes back. One game for your contract. That's what it essentially comes down to. Because if I'm in that front office and I'm looking around and we talk about, and he plays bad and Joel Embiid comes back game 4 and he down, it's the Miami Heat up 3-0, I'm going to be looking at James Harden. I'm kind of crazy. Honestly, I'm going to be looking at him kind of crazy because at the end of the day, James Harden, you was the third option with the Brooklyn Nets. You wanted to come play in Philly. You wanted to go be the second option. You want to go play with Joel Embiid. He was in a perfect situation with the Brooklyn Nets. So I don't want to hear all that Steve Nash, James Harden shit right now. Go out and get a game. That's how I'm looking at it.
Man said, "Hey, man, I want buckets."
Yeah, go get a game.
No, I'm with you now.
Go get a game, man.
I'm with you. I'm with you only because you mentioned the contract part of it. You feel me? You know, look, you want to get that super max, you want to get the 5 year, 250, 60, whatever the number is. Cool, I'm with you, player. But don't be down 3-0.
Go get a game.
And also, because you're not playing with bums, right? Like, you might, obviously you miss with Joel Embiid, you feel me?
Right.
But it's still, you know what I'm saying? It's still a top 4 seed.
Right.
But I will say this, too. I think it all depends on how many games it is, right? Because if they end up being down 2-0, I don't think that's, okay, the Miami Heat are still a 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
But if they get down 3-0, hey, come on.
Yeah. Like I said.
I know you ain't asking for, $250 million and be down 3-0 in the semifinals. I know you ain't asking for $250 million about to get, just 4 playoff wins. I know that ain't the case. It really does get nasty. And so, to me, like there's this dynamic of like, okay, a player deserves his money. Cool. I'm all for that. Yep. I want all players to get paid what they are worth. But at the same time, produce. That's not, to your point, that's not too much to ask. Right? And again, another great point is no one has asked you to do something that you've never done before. Ain't nobody asked you to go out there and get 10 steals.
Guard 1 through 5.
Ain't nobody asked you to, prevent Bam from, going off it. Score. Put the ball in the hoop. And obviously now there's been, it's pretty unanimous, right? When we talk between Giannis and Harden and all that, whatever. But even still, if you feel deep down in your heart that, as a hooper, I'm better than Giannis, I'm not mad at it. Just go out there and prove it. But he could even play the narrative of, some people feel that I'm not top 5, say no more. Let me go out and prove it. Cool. I'm not mad at that either.
Some people say
just go out and do it.
Some people say you're not top 10 no more. Go out and prove
Fine.
it. Like it's
that
crazy.
Changes if you go out there and produce. Some people hate, right? Ain't no denying that. There's some people in this, basketball space that truly just hate. At the same time, numbers is numbers. The eye test, you feel me? Like, it's just a fact. But if you feel personally about it, I promise you, people's opinions going to change if you go out there and get a dub.
And they can and they can change. A lot of opinions can change right now with James Harden. People talk about this and that about his playoff woes and stuff like that. I don't really want to get into that because it's a lot of, like you said, people hate certain players, but then you start looking at the numbers, you're looking at like the impact. It's just like, well, it's a little bit, you praising this player for doing this and this player's basically doing the same thing. You just like, so I don't really gonna get into all that because you know how that goes with the different narratives, especially for James Harden. But at the end of the day, like you said, we're asking you to score the ball. We're asking you to produce. You want a supermax contract. And like I said, he can kill all that noise by being competitive and going out and show that, this is going to still be a series once Joel Embiid returns because of my greatness. We're not going to look at Tyrese. It's not going to be because of Tyrese Maxey. It's not going to be because of Tobias Harris. It's going to have to be because of James Harden. So, and it's crazy because we will know either by the time we come back and record again, like what happens, or we going to know probably like, unfortunately.
But I think in any of these situations, it's always a reminder for people that like we are rooting for these players, right? Like it's not like, waiting for failure or something. But at the same time, it's like, if we're going to hold you to a certain standard, we don't have a choice but to acknowledge the real. You know what I'm saying? Like these are, especially for James Harden, when you're, you're entering those years where, hey, you're not getting younger. And so these are the times, these are the postseasons, like, you got to get it done now, right? Like, you don't know what's going to happen next season, like, especially with his personal contract situation, all these different things. So hopefully they can get it done. At least hopefully he shows up, right? Yeah. Regardless who you're going for, at least hopefully he shows up and reminds the world who the hell he is.
That's fine. And that's the perfect thing you said, showing up, because some that's what a lot of people on Kevin Durant about, because it's like, it'd be different if you lost or your team got swept. But if you ain't show up for 95% of the series, it's just kind of like people gonna look at you kind of funny. So at least show up. I didn't say nothing about the Philadelphia Sixers winning this series. I picked the Miami Heat before, healthy Joel Embiid or not. I picked the Miami Heat before. But like at least show up and produce where we can look at not you being the reasons why your team is struggling. So
yeah, you're right. I got a cap or no cap for you. And it features a team that's no longer in the playoffs, but it's pretty important to at least address this. Cap or no cap Rudy Gobert and Donovan
I
Mitchell
knew
will
it.
be,
I
will
knew
be
it.
teammates
I knew it.
at the start of next season.
It's over.
Cap or no cap, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell will be teammates by the start of next season.
I think it's over with, Cap. I think it's over with. I think it's over. I think Rudy Gobert needs a new situation. I think Donovan Mitchell needs a new situation. If Donovan Mitchell was smart, he'll go into that front office and demand a trade. Don't let them pick between the two. Because let me tell you something, they're gonna pick to get Rudy Gobert out, other than Donovan Mitchell. So if I'm Donovan, I'm going in there first. Saying, give me the hell out of here. I'm going in there first. Like all the rumors shit. I don't know if it's true or whatever, but like if I'm Donovan Mitchell, I'm going in that front office first to demand a trade, because at the end of the day, this is how I look at it. Donovan Mitchell, nobody's coming to play with you in Salt Lake City. That's just as simple as that. Nobody's coming. Like, I don't care what free agent. Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine's an unrestricted free agent. He's not saying I want to go play with the Utah Jazz. You know what I'm saying? Bradley Beal's an unrestricted free. He's not saying I want to come play with the Utah Jazz. I know they play the same positions or whatever, but I'm just using that as an example to say, like, yo, stars are not coming to play with you. It's a reason why the Utah Jazz had to give Rudy Gobert a max contract. It wasn't because of this game. It wasn't because like he was the next Shaq or he was putting up 25 and 15. They had to give him because like, yo, who the hell is coming to Salt Lake City to play in Utah? Nobody. So for that specific person, for that specific reason, I'm sorry.
That's so
Donovan Mitchell, go into that front office and get the hell up out of Salt Lake City.
Ben's about to walk in there like he got to put in some transfer requests.
Yes,
transfer papers.
Like it's soccer. Like it's soccer. Put your transfer request in and get the hell out of Utah, man. Please. Please.
But yeah, it's Cap. I agree with you. I mean, because there's no point, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. It's like sometimes when you got great players, whether it's 2, 3, whatever, you tell yourself, all right, maybe this could work, right? Let's see. There you go. Let's see if this can work. But then you also reach a point where it's like, all right, we've literally saw it for years now. Well, what's next? That should be the question that the front office in Utah asks. What's next? Because you know for a fact, hate to say it, but what you got now ain't gonna get it done, right? Yeah. And so to your point, ain't nobody about to willingly raise their hand and say, "Oh, Salt Lake City, I'm gonna slide." You know what I'm saying? And so, are you about to trade Rudy? Are you about to trade Donovan? Are you about to build through the draft? Right? Yeah, and exactly. To me, and even if you want to build through the draft, does that get it done in terms of a championship? Right? Like, to me, this is like the perfect 4 or 5 seed. This is the perfect, decent regular season.
Yeah, go to the playoffs.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think one of the, you know what I'm saying, and entertain the fans, you know what I'm saying, make the playoffs, sell a couple tickets, might make the second round, you know what I'm saying, make things a little interesting, give a couple of championship contenders a run for their money, give them some comp, prepare them for the real test against the Warriors or Suns or some shit. But in terms of chip, no, it's clear. Yeah, it's and that's okay, but I'm gonna say this: they're not in the worst position. I think one of the worst positions that you can be in terms of basketball is being a 7 or 8 seed. The middle of the pack. Can't get better, can't get worse. You don't have a lottery pick, but you barely made the playoffs. That terrible position to be in. I'd rather stink. I'd rather be trash. Tank. Just tank. Because at least you get a lottery pick. But if you're in the middle of the pack, ew. What are we doing here? We find all season long just get what? Losing 5 in the first round year after year after year? That's nasty work.
Well, only pushback I would say to that is it depends on the organization and culture. Because, do you have guys that can develop? Do you have guys that can go out and scout and go find gems? Because the Spurs being a 7 and 8 seed in the middle pack a couple of years and developing guys and finding guys, or the Miami Heat when they had their down years, they were like the 7 and 8 seed for a couple of years and stuff, and then finding gems and stuff. That's a little bit different, But if you're the Utah Jazz, or if you're the team the Orlando Magic, it's just that's the worst possible thing you could be, a 7 and 8 seed. So to your credit, you are right, but I think it depends on what organization.
Well,
saying
yeah, two different ball clubs though.
But look at the two other organizations I said it first, and it might be Heat. Duh, they can't do no wrong either way.
I was gonna say, those, and that's the thing too, though. Those two have some great organizations, right? The Spurs, even though they didn't have a great year, that's still a good organization. The Miami Heat, great organization. But you mentioned the Jazz and the Magic. They, historically speaking, and just overall now, like the Jazz still aren't an 8 seed or a 7 seed, and
that's what
the Magic is like. Well, what are you doing? Like that's the question that I think GMs really have to like start asking. What are we doing? Right? Like truly, like are we competing? We vibing? We trying to win chips? We trying to build? We trying to land free agent? What exactly are we doing? Because I feel like there's so many teams out there that are just lost.
No, that's a fact.
There's no goal. There's just we're going to exist, right? Our goal is to not get relocated. Our goal is to keep fans in the stands. Like there's nothing basketball wise. Like like where is the improvement? And I think teams like Chicago definitely deserve their recognition because at least they were like, all right, we might not be where we want to be, but let's make some moves. Let's get active. Let's really change some stuff with our team. I get it. Other teams that's just what's up, y'all? I see y'all making some moves. We gonna chill. Hello. Hello.
No, but and then sometimes you get in this position, like you said, you don't know the front office to know what direction they want to go with. Like the New York Knicks was the perfect. I knew that it was like music to my ears. The New York Knicks, 4th seed a year ago. And I was like, they really should be tanking. But, it's all this hoorah. They got Tom Thibodeau at the end. I was like, okay, wait till next season. Man. Back to reality. You know what I'm saying? It's just like back to reality. So it's just like, you also can't get tricked by that because having one little fluky ass regular season where we know you probably should be tanking for a draft pick. You probably should be developing your young players, but instead you want to go out and you want to have these old veterans to compete because you want to be in the playoffs and stuff like that because it makes you feel better. It makes you feel better that we competed for a 7 to 8 seed, So it's very challenging. But like you said, you got to know your personnel. GM's got to make that decision, but definitely cap, man.
It's the game.
I will say though this before we get out of here. The only reason I'm so hard on Rudy Gobert is that it's because it's expected to be the second option on a team. You know what I'm saying? He's expected to be a second option on a championship caliber team because even though the Utah Jazz or the 4th or 5th seed, I forgot, whatever, I don't know. I think they were the 4th seed this year. But like a couple years, they were the 1st seed and stuff. And people were talking about their championship caliber. I was like, okay, whatever. But he was expected to be that second option getting paid all that money. But I'll take Rudy Gobert with the Chicago Bulls, being the 4th option, rim protecting. I'll take him with like, who else?
Would you take him with the Warriors?
I'll take him with the Golden State Warriors. You know what I'm saying? I'll take him where he could just be who he's meant to be. A good-ass role player. That's what he's meant to be. He's a good-ass
expensive-ass role player.
He's an expensive-ass role player, but it's just like he's supposed to be a good-ass role player. Like people get caught up in certain things of when guys get on their own team and stuff. Like Joakim Noah. Joakim Noah had an excellent couple years in the NBA. Went to All-Star games, defensive player of the year.
I just realized. Wait a minute.
Defensive player of the year awards.
No. They're not the same.
Defensive player of the year awards. But I'm saying this. You think about the slander, Joakim? That's not what the case. That's not what I'm doing. I'm saying that to say that that's a guy that you probably would have been willing to give like big time dollars for. Rudy Gobert has shown nothing on the offensive end in the playoffs, nothing on the offensive end in the regular season for the Utah Jazz to really say, we should give you all this money. But they had to because at the end of the day, no one's coming to Salt Lake City. But there's some teams out there that can really use Rudy Gobert. I think Chicago Bulls are one. You mentioned the Golden State Warriors. I think that's unrealistic. I think who's another team out there that probably the Brooklyn Nets maybe if they can figure out some type of situation. It's a lot of teams. I'm just throwing out names. Like I think the Charlotte Hornets would be a great spot for Rudy Gobert. It's a few teams. It's a few teams.
Yeah, I mean, hey, but I think when the Jazz gave him that contract though, oh yeah, that's what it was. I forgot. Joakim Noah. I jumped the gun when I heard you say Joakim Noah just because there's levels. Well, hell no, Joakim Noah. Because Joakim Noah was like a top 5 MVP candidate at one point. Like legitimate, like for a good, not no damn 2 weeks either. Like a legitimate, length of a season top 5 MVP candidate. And I'll just leave it at that. I was about to add a comment say so-and-so isn't. But I'll leave it at that. But yeah. Housekeeper items. Yeah, I know the deal. 5-star rating Apple Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. All right. And just like that, y'all, we gone. Enjoy these podcasts. I mean, enjoy these podcasts.
Enjoy these
Enjoy these playoffs.
Enjoy these games.
playoffs.
Enjoy this podcast.
Yeah, facts. All right, y'all. Peace.
It's your boy, M.I.K. Smith, also known as AK. Make sure you guys go follow No Pump Fakes wherever you get your podcasts.